Good afternoon, folks. How are we doing? Today is Tuesday. It is the 27th day of September, 2022. I am Scott. That is Bo. You might hear Kitten from time to time making noises. He's saying, evacuate. I'm trying to open a Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee thing I got from the store today. I was very excited about it. I splurged. Okay, here we go. White House locations, they're still open. Just in case you wanted to know how I was doing, how bad the situation is. Well, yesterday I made a video, day before yesterday, one of those, I made a video talking about this briefly. And I said, well, it's cool because when they target Tampa to start with on the spaghetti maps, that means we're safe because the spaghetti maps are always wrong. Well, guess what? Yeah, it's just kind of zeroed in on us. They said that I've been here 21, going on 22 years. I've been here for a few, but never a direct hit right off the water. It's been 100 years since Tampa's gone through that shit. Who knows? I mean, it's still, I don't know, 24 hours out. So we'll see. But man, I tell you what, that Bay situation, it's like it's just going to catch it. See this right here? It's like it's just going to catch it and just shoot it right up into the fucking, and you see that A right there? I live right about, well, I live right about there. I live right under, I think I live right under that fucking line. That line goes right over my house. Lovely, huh? Okay, so what are we doing? We're going to talk about this Nord Stream pipeline. Both of them. A very odd occurrence took place. They both suffered damage, extensive damage, yesterday. And there were seismic readings that were recorded in Sweden that show that there were explosions that took place, 3 of them, right about the time 2 holes opened up in the Nord Stream 1 and 1 hole opened up in Nord Stream 2. Right here next to that little island. 2 holes, boom, boom in this one, and 1 boom in this one. I'm going to talk about that. Hi, folks. Unprecedented industrial accident. Certainly wasn't. We know that. There's videos from Victoria Nuland and Joe Biden, both stating that if Russia invades Ukraine, there will be no Nord Stream 2. Have a listen to this.
With regard to Nord Stream 2, we continue to have very strong and clear conversations with our German allies, and I want to be clear with you today. If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
Okay. In case you have to.
You today. If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
Okay. This is the woman who was giving out cookies to fucking Nazis in Ukraine back in 2014 during our color revolution. Was it her or Samantha Power that said, well, fuck the EU, first of all, because the EU was trying to have some kind of influence over the new government we were installing. And, of course, Victoria Nuland and her benefactors were having none of that. So fuck the EU, she said. But she also mentioned, one of those two mentioned, that they'd spent $6 billion in the years leading up to 2014 preparing for just such a color revolution. And what precipitated the color revolution? Yanukovych and the Ukrainians decided they didn't want to take a $14 billion fucking loan from the IMF and force all those austerity measures and structural reforms on the people of Ukraine. They didn't think it served their interest. And so, of course, being the we love democracy country, we had to get rid of that motherfucker because he had made a choice. They had made a choice to go with Russia, borrowing for $15 billion from Russia without those strings attached, because it was better for their people. But of course, it's all about democracy. I'm going to show you something else. This is President Biden.
Let me answer the first question first. If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that?
Well, I'll show you.
Exactly. Since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control.
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
I promise you we'll be able to do it.
His control.
We will, I promise you we'll be able to do it.
I promise you we will be able to do it. He's right. In all likelihood they did. And in all likelihood they used something along these lines. These are mine hunters. They are underwater unmanned vehicles. There are several different types. And they are capable of taking ordnance down once they find a mine, locate a mine, taking ordnance down and placing the ordnance on the fucking mine in order to detonate it. And as you can see, at least in this case, they're always relatively small. You don't need much. You take out a pipeline. But they're relatively small and could be deployed and operated from, say, a fishing vessel. Fishing vessel where? Well, if we take a look, this is the little island where this took place. It's Denmark. It's part of Denmark. Here. And Sweden's up here. Any kind of little fishing vessel off of this coast or this coast could easily have planted either one of these two with no problem. The name of that little island is Bornholm. Swedish experts report explosions at Nord Stream pipeline sites. Seismologists confirm underwater blasts were detected. Scientists in both Denmark and Sweden registered underwater explosions near the Nord Stream pipelines on Monday, when several major leaks were reported. Sabotage is now believed to be behind the damage. There's no doubt that these were explosions, seismologist Bjorn Lund of Sweden's National Seismology Center told public broadcaster SVT on Tuesday. The Danish military released aerial footage of the leaks showing large spots and visible bubbling in the water. Nord Stream 1 suffered 2 leaks northeast of the Danish island of Bornholm, while Nord Stream 2 was damaged south of Dude. I'm going to pronounce it that way because I don't know how to. A beach located at the island's southernmost tip. This is unprecedented. This kind of damage hadn't happened before the pipelines. Russian gas pipeline suffers unprecedented damage, says an operator. Simultaneous destruction of 3 gas pipelines in the Baltic Sea is unprecedented, their operator of Nord Stream said on Tuesday. It declined to provide an estimate of when they might be able to be functioning again. Unprecedented. Bornholm. That's where it took place, in the Baltic Sea. Sea Power, the official publication of Navy League of the United States of America. This is June 14th, 2022. The thing called Baltic Ops, or Balt Ops 2022, was taking place there. A massive joint military operation involving 14 different nations, coming together with all kinds of different naval warfare tests, drills, whatever. And one of the ones they did here, in the Baltic Sea, a significant focus of BALTOPS every year is a demonstration of NATO mine hunting capabilities. And this year, the U.S. Navy continues to use the exercise as an opportunity to test emerging technologies. In support of BALTOPS, U.S. Navy's Sixth Fleet partnered with U.S. Navy Research and Warfare Centers to bring the latest advancements in underwater unmanned vehicles mine hunting technology to the Baltic Sea to demonstrate the vehicle's effectiveness. Experimentation was conducted off the coast of Bornholm, Denmark. Mine hunters being tested off the coast of Bornholm. That was in June of this year. The video with him, President Biden, was in early February. The video
with regard
of
to
her was in late January, both of this year. Yep, they have ways to do that. Now, here's the thing people don't get and that people will misconstrue. This has nothing to do with the invasion of Ukraine. They could use it as an excuse, but they're never going to admit that they actually blew up somebody's fucking pipeline. They'll never admit that. The damage to it is kind of symbolic. Nord Stream 2 only was prepared and ready to go in September of 2021. It was never really opened because they were already making ready, and they knew there was going to be sanctions imposed. So the Germans didn't open Nord Stream 2. And Nord Stream 1 had been, there were problems to start with. Not problems technically, but problems because ever since they had been opened, the U.S. has tried for one reason or another, through sanctions or whatever, to shut it down. Listen, the last thing you want to do, if you were a leader of a nation state, is to extract the material, the energy resources from your land, and then try to use a pipeline or some other means to ship it to somebody who doesn't have said fucking resources. That's the worst thing you can do, because that paints a target right on your fucking forehead for us. I mean, we had issues with, part of what happened with Syria was a pipeline issue. Certainly what happened with Afghanistan had nothing to do with 9/11, boys and girls. It was a pipeline issue. It was a trans-Afghan pipeline, or TAPI, or whatever it was called. It was a pipeline. And of course here, we have the same situation with Nord Stream. But here we are in the end of September, 8 months into the invasion of fucking Ukraine, and they had yet to do anything in Nord Stream 1 or 2, except for the sanctions. And now, all of a sudden, it appears that, I don't know, maybe somebody took a chartered a fishing boat out off of that little island and set a couple of charges and caused Russia some problems, caused Russia some pain. And of course, helped ruin the environment in the process for a while. Why is this important? This is important because A, they know the fucking area. They went down there. They looked at it back in June, apparently. They could have at least. Mapped out a plan. Figured out exactly what kind of ordinances they needed. And two, and most importantly, it's a friendly nation state in charge of the waters. And if anything happens, if there's an investigation, they've got control of that as well. So in all likelihood, this is where they set the thing in motion. This is where they got the plans for it, knowing that they were going to do it eventually. But what really set it in motion? What made it? Here's another one of these things. This is the AQS-24B mine hunting system. This needs a bit of a, but this is the whole rig. This is all you need. You can easily put that in a fucking fishing vessel, whatever the case may be. I mean, you could, for that matter, they were so close you could run them ashore. I guess I don't know what the range is. I'm sure it's fucking classified, but that's what it is. What kicked it off? Well, clearly what kicked it off was the referendums. They're punishing Russia for allowing or doing the referendums, which of course Russia's not doing. The individual areas, the provinces in Ukraine that don't want to live under a Nazi fascist state, they're the ones who did it. In this article here, there are sanctions and threats against people, individuals, and organizations across the world who are participating in the referendums, and they're as observers to make sure that everyone knows it's fair and open. So what do? The EU will slap sanctions on anyone involved in referendums on joining Russia in the Donbass republics, as well as the other two places, Zaporizhzhia, whatever that is, and Kherson regions, according to Peter Stano, a spokesman for the bloc's foreign policy chief, Joseph Borrell. There would be consequences for all people who participate in the illegal, illegitimate referendums, he said. We don't know if they're illegitimate or not. That's why the fucking observers go there. But they don't want observers there telling the world that they were free and open and fair. That's the last thing we want. But remember, it's all about saving democracy because Russia is invading. Because Russia is an autocracy. They're run by an evil dictator. That's the story. We blew up pipelines, damaging how much fucking of the environment? We blew up pipelines because we're pissed off about this. Why are we pissed off about this? We're pissed off about this because if the people in the regions, and you know they will, vote to become part of Russia as opposed to Ukraine, Ukraine's not going to be able to fucking continue bombing them because then it's Russia. They'll move all their people. Like I told you before, when we were saying 2 weeks ago, the U.S. was saying 2 weeks ago, oh, we've got them on the run. They're running away. All they were doing was getting back into these regions that are going to have these referendums. Because once the referendum is held, then those places are not Ukraine anymore. They're Russia. Which is why we're punishing Russia by blowing up the Nord Stream 2 and Nord Stream 1. And that's as obvious as the nose on my face. And the whole thing is under the guise of we're fighting for democracy. it's a democracy. Ukraine is a democracy. Ukraine is the farthest thing from a democracy you could possibly imagine. Here's story after story, article after article. You don't see them much on NBC or Fox or any of these things, but the reality is, this motherfucker banned 11 political parties in March and in May. He planned on doing it in March. He actually did it in May. He banned them. He made them illegal. He's arrested leaders of political opposition parties. Arrested them. He also, quote unquote, consolidated, as NPR calls it, National Petroleum Radio calls it. He consolidated TV outlets, 3 fucking networks, that called into question what was happening in Ukraine since 2014, which is obvious. Three networks were, quote unquote, consolidated. They were invaded, they were taken over, and they were handed over to state-friendly fucking outlets. Their resources were. That's a democracy? That's not a democracy. That's the opposite of a democracy. In 2014, you all know, I just explained earlier, why they had to regime change Ukraine. And the people and the parties that they used were the far-right nationalists and the fucking Nazis, Sabotage and others. And then Zelensky was made, he was picked up by Kolomoisky, a billionaire, oligarch, who stole from the people of fucking Ukraine. He was picked up, he was created, he was put on TV, just a man of the people, a TV show to get people ready to accept him as their fucking president. And a lot of people don't. Certainly a lot of Ukrainians are seriously opposed to what this guy is doing, what he is allowing us to do through him to his fucking people. He's a puppet. He's the furthest thing from a democracy you could possibly imagine. And yet, and of course, these are the kinds of people we're dealing with.
You today. If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move.
Let me answer the first question first. If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
We will bring an end to it. This is the kind of people we're dealing with. These are thugs. These are thugs in $5,000 suits who will do anything. Now, Russia invaded 7 months ago, 8 months ago. Quote unquote invaded 7 months ago, 8 months ago. No problems. Now, coincidentally, as they are holding the referendum for Ukrainians to vote as to which country they wish to be a part of, Russia or Ukraine, and you know which way the vote's going to go. Not only are we threatening observers who will tell the world these are open and fair elections, not only are we threatening them, but apparently now there's some kind of accident which is unprecedented in the history of these fucking things. And 3 holes suddenly appear in Nord Stream 2 and Nord Stream 1, right alongside an island that is I don't want to say a client state of ours, but certainly friendly to us and to NATO. And just several months removed from them having drills in that same fucking, off the coast of that same fucking island, working with underwater unmanned vehicle mine hunters. There's no question. There's no question what happened. Of course, Russia can't come in there, even though it's their pipeline. Russia can't come in there, and they can't investigate. They can't do an investigation. It'll be it'll be Denmark, and they'll gather the evidence, and who knows what the fuck they'll frame whoever they frame it on. But that's definitely what we're looking at, in my opinion, and it has to do with the referendums. The referendums was a bridge too far. They said, fuck it. We got to make them pay. And so that's what they've done. And who knows how extensive the damage is at this point. Like I said, Nord Stream 2 was just pressurized. It wasn't operational. Nord Stream 1 was also, I think, down because of the most recent sanctions and because of what the Germans are doing. Imagine that. You got two massive pipelines going right into your fucking country, and you're telling your people it's going to be a fucking dark winter because of all the democracy they want to fucking preserve in Ukraine, a country that just fucking arrested the leadership, political opposition leadership, and banned 11 fucking political parties. One of which had about 44 different members already in parliament. And they were all escorted out. You're no longer elected official. That's what they did. And that's who they're doing it for. So you're telling the people in fucking Germany, this is all for democracy and freedom and all of that. And obviously it isn't. Obviously it isn't. And you got two massive pipelines, or at least you did before we blew them up. The other possibility is this, and there's a lot of pressure on politicians in Germany. It may come out that they have plans, maybe even we're working with or quietly talking to the Russians about, you know what, fuck it, just open up those fucking pipelines. We're going to, it could be that too as well. I don't know. Anyway, there you have it. That's the situation with Nord Stream. As fucked up as that is, see, they go right into Germany. Both of them go right into Germany, and then from there to different places in fucking different places in the United Kingdom or European Union. Don't know what's going to happen with this. I guess everyone's whistling past the graveyard at this point. But then again, this is what happens down here. No one takes it seriously. I've been here 21 years now. No one takes it seriously. You do once the first time you're down here and one of these things comes along. But Cat 3 right over top of my house. Seriously, I think I'm right about here where my hand is. I think I'm right about there. Yeah, Cat 3 going right over top of my house. Yeah, that's interesting. That'll be something. If you don't hear from me for a while, like I said, when Irma came through and Mom was still here with me, we had no power for 5 days. And that was a Category 1 by the time it hit here. It skirted up the side of the Gulf Coast of Florida. And it was only a Category 1 by the time it hit us. But so if you don't hear from me for a couple of days, I'll be okay. Just letting you guys know, okay? I want to thank you all for your time. And I hope you have a good one. Anyone down here in the path, please be safe. And there's Bo's butt. You can see his tail wagging there. He doesn't know what it is, but he knows something's going on. Anyway, I got to go. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.